When we're multiplying radicals, we use the product rule of radicals, which basically says this right here. Kind of a more condensed way to say this is when we're multiplying radicals with the same index, all we do is multiply our coefficients on the outside, those stay on the outside, multiply our radicands on the inside, those stay on the inside. And then after we've done that multiplication, then we're going to simplify if possible. Okay, so for example, on 392, we have negative 5 squared of 14 times 4 squared of 6. They are the same index, so we can multiply them. So if we multiply our coefficients, we get negative 20. If we multiply our radicands, 14 times 6 gives us 84. And now we need to simplify this, and you can simplify it whichever way you prefer. You could use the factor tree, or you could look for the biggest perfect square that will fit into 84. So if we simplify this using the factor tree, I get 2 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 7. It's a square root, so I'm looking for pairs. We've got a pair of 2's we can take out. If we multiply the 2 by negative 20, we get negative 40 on the outside. Inside, we have a 3 and a 7 left, so 3 times 7 is 21. So after we simplify that, we get negative 40 square root of 21. Process is the same if we're working with cube roots. Our simplification just looks a little bit different. So if we multiply our outsides, 2 times 6 gives us 12. If we multiply our insides, I'm going to keep my little index of 3 there so we don't forget it's a cube root. 18 times 15 gives me 270. And now we simplify. I get 2 and 135, 5 and 27, 3 and 9, 3 and 3. Since this is a cube root, we're looking for triples or groups of 3. Got a group of 3 there. So I'm bringing a 3 to the outside. 3 times 12 gives me a coefficient of 36. Cube root of, we have a 2 and a 5 left over on the inside, so 2 times 5 is 10. So we get 36 cube root 10. All right, if we're multiplying one term by two terms, we distribute it just like we would if this were like numbers and variables. So we're going to take our 7 square root of 6 and distribute it to the 3 square root of 10 first. We're going to get 21 square root of 60. We multiply just like we did above. 7 square root of 6 times negative 5 square root of 15, we're going to get minus 35. Square root of 6 times 15 gives me 90. Okay, these are not like radicals right now, but they can both be simplified, so we can simplify them and see if they're going to be like radicals. If we simplify this, we get 2 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 5. So we can take out a 2. We're going to end up with 42 square root 15. And here I've got 2 and 45, 3 and 15, 3 and 5. So we've got a pair of 3's we can bring out. 3 times 35 gives me negative 105. We have a 2 and a 5 left over on the inside, or 10. So they're still not like radicals. We still can't combine them, but they could be simplified. Okay, so in our next example, we have two terms by two terms, a binomial times a binomial. So again, we're going to treat it just like we did when we were working with variables and numbers. We're going to take our first term, distribute it to everything in our second binomial. So square root of 5 times 4 square root of 10 is going to give me 4 square root of 50. Square root of 5 times 6 square root of 6 is going to give me 6 square root of 30. Okay, now let's do the same thing with our second term here. We have negative 2 square root of 3 that we're distributing. When we multiply it by 4 square root of 10, we get negative 8 square root of 30. This times this gives me negative 12 square root of 18. Okay, so we go through and see what can be simplified. We're going to try and simplify all these. We actually can combine these two things right here. And the square root of 30 cannot be simplified. So if I combine those two middle ones, I'm going to get negative 2 square root of 30. Let me actually scoot that down just a little bit. And we can simplify our first and our second, or our first and our last ones. So 2 and 25, 5 and 5. We have a pair of 5s we can take out. So we get 20 square root 2. Keep that minus 2 square root 30. And then here we have 2 and 9, 3 and 3. We can take a 3 out. We get minus 36 square root 2. All right, we've got like radicals here that we can put together. So 20 minus 36 is negative 16 square root 2 minus 2 square root 30. All right, and then our next example, example 396. Same process. Going to take our first term and distribute it to everything in our second one. We multiply our first two terms. We get 14 square root 10. This times this gives us minus 16 square root 35. Now we're going to take this term and distribute it. This times this is minus 21 square root 12. This times this is plus 24 square root 42. We want to see if things can be simplified, and actually on this one, the only one that can be simplified is this right here, negative 21 square root of 12. That gives me a 2 and a 6, 2 and a 3. We take out a 2. This one I'm just going to bring down, bring this down. This turns into minus 42 square root 3 plus 24 square root 42. We don't have any like radicals, so we leave our answer just like that. So when we are multiplying, we just use our distribution. Remember, you multiply what's on the outside, keep it on the outside. Multiply what's on the inside, keep it on the inside, then simplify if possible.